He was history's most successful monster. He had everything a conqueror could ever want: absolute power, a vast empire, and the blood of thousands on his hands. And then, at the peak of his power, he committed the one act no one saw coming. He decided to destroy the one person responsible for all the suffering, himself. So the story title is The Darkest Redemption in History: Ashoka's Unthinkable Choice, the Emperor Who Killed His Own Legacy. Narrator, voice is a low, conspiratorial whisper. What if the most powerful man in the world, the most brutal, the most feared conqueror of his age simply vanished? And in his place stood someone completely different? This isn't a fantasy. This is history's greatest plot twist. This is the story of a man who sought revenge on an entire subcontinent, only to take the ultimate revenge on his own soul. We've all known rage. We've all felt the burning desire to prove our doubters wrong, to crush our enemies, to seize power to fill a void of insecurity. But what happens when you win it all, and the victory feels like ash in your mouth? If you've ever wondered if true change is possible, even for the worst of us, hit that like button, subscribe, and prepare for a story of revenge so profound. It didn't just destroy an enemy, it built a new world. Our story begins not with a king, but with a vacuum. The Indian subcontinent, 322 BCE. The great Alexander the Great had recently retreated, leaving a power vacuum so vast it was like a physical hunger. Into this chaos stepped a young man named Chandragupta Maurya. Imagine him, orphaned, sold into servitude, told he was nothing. His entire life was a story of being underestimated. And that, my friends, is the most potent fuel for revenge there is. He meets a brilliant, ruthless Brahmin advisor, Chanakya, a man whose own humiliation by a corrupt king had festered into a cold, geopolitical fury. Chanakya saw in Chandragupta the perfect weapon, the student and the master, the muscle and the mind. Their shared pain, their shared ambition, became the foundation of an empire. They didn't just build an army, they forged a machine. A bureaucracy so efficient it would make modern corporations weep. They didn't just conquer, they consumed. Kingdom after kingdom fell. The final boss, the Nanda Empire, was obscenely wealthy, arrogant in its power. They laughed at the upstart and his scheming teacher. They didn't laugh for long. The revenge of Chandragupta and Chanakya was absolute. They didn't just take the throne, they took everything. The Mauryan Empire was born in the fire of their collective, righteous indignation. But empires are fragile things. They passed the throne to Bindusara, who held the line. And then came the grandson, Ashoka. Now let's talk about Ashoka. Not the saint yet, just a prince, and not even the favored one. Imagine growing up in the shadow of that legacy. Your grandfather was a legend who built an empire from dirt. Your father is a powerful, distant king. And you? You're just one of many princes, vying for attention. The court whispers. They say he has a cruel look, that he's impulsive, that he's not fit to rule. You can feel it, can't you? The condescension, the sidelong glances, the quiet, dismissive comments from his half-brothers and the court nobles. That feeling of being judged and found wanting. It settles in your bones, a constant cold ache. It makes you want to break something just to feel the warmth of the pieces. So, when Bindusara sends him to quell a rebellion in the city of Taxila, Ashoka doesn't just quell it. He erases the dissent. He is ruthless, efficient, and terrifying. It's his application for the job of emperor. See, he's saying, through blood and steel. See what I can do. I am my grandfather's grandson. The final test comes after his father's death. The succession is messy. The ancient texts are vague, but they hint at a brutal war of succession. A fraternal civil war. Imagine the betrayal. Your own flesh and blood, the people you grew up with, now seeing you as an obstacle to be removed. The ultimate familial disrespect. Ashoka didn't just win that war. He is said to have eliminated all of them. 99 brothers, some accounts claim. The number is probably symbolic, but the message is chillingly clear. Do not stand in my way. He becomes emperor in 268 BCE. And for the first 8 years, he is everything his critics feared. He is Chandragupta 2.0, but angrier. He is the Ashoka the Fierce, Chandrashoka. His empire expands, fueled by his internal fire, his need to prove himself, to outdo his grandfather, to silence every single critic, living or dead. And then we come to Kalinga. Kalinga was an independent, prosperous kingdom on the coast. A thorn in the side of the empire. A final, defiant holdout. For Ashoka, it was more than a territory, it was an insult. A living, breathing challenge to his authority. It was every brother who ever sneered at him, every courtier who ever doubted him, made manifest in a kingdom. He would make an example of them. He marched. The Kalinga War, 262 BCE, was not a battle. It was a slaughter. The ancient texts don't mince words. 100,000 killed. 150,000 deported. Entire cities emptied. The rivers ran red. Now picture the scene after the battle. The screaming has stopped. There is only the moaning of the wounded and the cawing of crows. Ashoka, in his royal regalia, walks through the carnage. The air is thick with the smell of blood and smoke and death. This is his victory, the ultimate revenge on a disobedient kingdom. He should feel triumphant. He should feel the warm glow of validation. But he doesn't. He looks at the shattered bodies. Not soldiers, men, women, children. He sees a mother clutching her dead infant, her own life bleeding out into the mud. He sees a dead father, his hand still stretched towards his slain son. He sees the hollow, broken eyes of the survivors, their world ended. This isn't a statue or a painting. This is real. The mud is sucking at his boots. The flies are buzzing around his face. Internal monologue, Ashoka. Is this it? This gore? This silence broken only by weeping? This is what I fought my brothers for? This is the legacy I will leave? A kingdom of graves? I wanted them to respect me. I wanted them to fear me. But now, I only disgust myself. What have I done? What have I become? This is the turning point. Not a political calculation. Not a strategic decision. It is a psychological breaking point. The revenge he sought has turned to poison in his veins. The man who craved power above all else is suddenly, utterly powerless in the face of his own conscience. The revenge is over. Now begins the real war. The war against himself. He could have buried the truth. Most conquerors do. But Ashoka's revenge on his old self was to do the one thing a tyrant never does. He told the truth. He had his confession carved into stone, on pillars and rocks across his entire empire, for all to see. His Majesty feels remorse for the conquest of Kalinga, for when an independent country is conquered, the slaughter, death, and deportation of the people is extremely grievous to His Majesty and weighs heavily on his mind. The chiefest conquest is not by weapons, but by righteousness. Let that sink in. The most powerful man in the world publicly admitted he was wrong. He apologized. This was his new devastating weapon, radical honesty. This was his revenge on the cycle of violence itself. He didn't just stop there. He became Ashoka, Ashoka the Pious. He renounced violence. He embraced Buddhism and sent missionaries not as conquerors, but as teachers, to places as far as Syria, Egypt, and Greece. He built hospitals for people and animals. He dug wells, planted trees, established a system of justice focused on fairness, not punishment. He looked at the machine of empire his grandfather built, a machine for conquest, and he reprogrammed it. He turned it into a machine for public welfare. The same bureaucracy that once moved armies now moved doctors and engineers. The same roads that carried soldiers now carried messengers of peace and trade. This was the climax, the ultimate payoff. The antagonist wasn't a person or a kingdom. The antagonist was his own darkness, his own trauma, his own insatiable hunger for validation through violence. And his revenge was the most complete, the most profound imaginable. He didn't destroy the antagonist, he redeemed it. He used the absolute power he had gained through horrific means to enact a level of good that was previously unimaginable. So, what was the moment of justice? It wasn't a single day. It was every day that followed. It was the look on a courtier's face, once used to flinching at the emperor's anger, now hearing him speak of compassion. It was the stunned silence of foreign ambassadors, expecting a bloodthirsty tyrant, and finding instead a philosopher king. The old Ashoka, Chandragupta, was dead, and the man who killed him walked the palaces and gardens of Pataliputra, a free man. The revenge was his peace. The revenge was the sound of construction, not destruction. The revenge was the knowledge that thousands were alive and well because he had chosen to change. The ghosts of Kalinga were not avenged by more death. They were laid to rest by a lifetime of atonement. The humiliated prince, the fratricidal heir, the brutal conqueror, they were all proven wrong by the man he chose to become. He looked at his past selves and gave them the most devastating reply possible: a life of profound, world-changing good. So, what is the lesson here? That revenge is empty? Or that the most satisfying revenge isn't against others, but against the worst parts of our own nature? Ashoka's story tells us that no matter how far down the path of darkness you've gone, it is never too late to turn around, and that the most powerful empire you will ever build is the one within. If this story of the ultimate transformation sent a chill down your spine, if it made you believe in the possibility of second chances, then do me a favor. Smash that like button and let me know in the comments. What's the biggest change you've ever made to your own character? What part of yourself have you had to conquer? Subscribe for more stories of history's most shocking twists and turns. Until next time, remember, the greatest battles are often fought in silence within the human heart.